Hey folks, this is Rebel Rouse and Rich Bergeron.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Tornado Tony Pennington.
And it's like Tom Badger with his crystal ball ready to go.
And I know, a lot of people have been watching tornadoes around the area today, but we're gonna have tornado listening tonight. A tornado listen, not a tornado watch. But I've been watching you on Facebook, Tony, and it seems like you're getting more famous. So you're gonna go be on TV at some point here with your Philly stuff.
You see some of that? Well, you see, like I did the and Tom, I don't know if you heard about this. There's a guy, and I've never met him in person, but we got connected through social media, and he is basically a Rocky impersonator. And because he, especially with his eyes, looks a lot like Sylvester Stallone. You know, he's got like kind of like the sagging eyelid, under the eyes and all that. And so he's gotten to do a gimmick over the years, and he really will put the fedora on and the leather jacket, and he can really do a great Rocky impersonation to the point where Sly has endorsed him to do Rocky tours around the city, going to like the old gym and all that. So I connected with this guy, and a few weeks ago, he puts out there that they're putting together a Rocky podcast on Tuesday nights, and they've been doing a lot of work, and there's a couple other people attached to it, and I commented to them, and they said, hey, then they said, we're asking for people to do birthday greetings for Sylvester Stallone's 75th birthday, which was 2 days ago. And I said, yeah, I'll do that. They're like, I said, do you want me in costume? They're like, absolutely. I'm like, okay. So I went downstairs into my basement gym, and I have like a little section with like some Rocky memorabilia, like a movie poster and a couple pictures and all that. I'm in costume, and I have a 18-inch animatronic Rocky from the first movie with the white trunks, and he does little sayings. So I'm standing next to it. I'm like, I want you, chump. I want the stallion. And then I turn around. I'm like, hey, just wishing you a happy 75th birthday. Thank you for all you've done. Big fan here, so on and so forth. And they included that on their inaugural podcast, which was this Tuesday, Sly's 75th birthday. And they were going to send that to him directly, along with some other wishes from fans. So I thought that was kind of cool. And last year, when everything was shut down with Major League Sports, and there was no attendance, there was a group of guys, and I just met them a few weeks ago, that became famous at the Philly Stadium because they would go outside the ballpark for every home game, even though you couldn't get in, and they would stand at the gates with cowbells, and they would just make noise, and they would cheer, and they'd have signs. So they got to be called, instead of the pandemic crew, the Fandemic crew. So I met them a few weeks ago. We did some photos together. We've been in contact, and they saw my video for Sylvester Stallone, and they said, listen, every night we ask somebody to read the starting lineup for the Philadelphia Phillies. Would you like to do it? I said, of course. So as soon as I call, I just tell me, send me the lineup as soon as it's out and tell me what to do. They're like, just be creative. I said, oh, okay. I'm in. Threw the outfit on and basically had the lineup, and I did kind of like a little Chris Berman type of thing for everybody.
You gave everybody a nickname.
The one guy, Gene
like
Scorer, was... What?
I like that nickname thing. Yeah, it was good. We used to do a whole column on that in my high school newspaper.
Segura was mean, woo, my God, Gene Segura. They got Reese Hoskins. They call him Reese Lightning instead of Grease Lightning.
Yeah, that was a good one.
But they had a lot of cool things. So I got to just channeled being me, and did the best I could.
Well, talent scouts will be calling.
And hey, and I say this all the time.
You never know, right?
It's not always being good. It's being lucky. It really is. And Rich, I tell stories all the time. about, I've gone to auditions sometimes. I'm not an actor, but I just go down there and I just try to stand out. I just try to say, hey, here's what I can bring to you. And Jonathan's not professional, but it's a lot of personality.
Yeah. That new outfit makes a difference. Oh, that thing's sparkly.
It does, doesn't it? It's nice.
Anyway, here, how about this for a segue? Somebody that people aren't going to be so happy to see when he shows up on TV tomorrow, Stephen A. Smith, or Saturday. He's been named to the ESPN broadcast for UFC 264 this weekend. And apparently some MMA fans are going nuts about it. They're not pleased. And we know
It's definitely polarizing.
he's very upsetting to a lot of people in the boxing circles for some of the things he said.
Yeah.
And not only that, but he's gone out with this video of him training in boxing, and he thinks he's all that, and he looks like a bag of shit. So, yeah. I'm sure a lot of people are not looking forward to his debut on UFC broadcast here. But anyway. Actually, during a UFC 246 live broadcast, it says here, according to this article, he butted heads with respected commentator Joe Rogan. And that was a main event bout between McGregor and Donald Cerrone. And he actually questioned Cowboy's toughness, accusing the 38-year-old of not wanting to be there. I'm quite disgusted, he told Rogan during the post-fight coverage. Although that's pretty much the tame Dana White comment that you might see in that situation. But I guess Steven says it, and everybody's gonna give him shit. But yeah, he makes his living by being controversial. So it's like one of those things. There's no such thing as bad publicity. If people are gonna watch him to hate on him, they're gonna watch him. So, there's that, but the bigger story is the actual fight card. We have Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor 3, and Conor didn't make out so well in the last one. But my crystal ball tells me this one's not going to work out any different for him, whether he just focused on all the mixed martial arts and not just boxing, or whether he trained 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I don't think it's going to matter, because he cannot catch up to the role Dustin Poirier was on when he went into that last fight, and is still on now, and the confidence he must have. And now there's this back and forth between these guys that's being made fun of about, hey, let's not take each other down. Let's just fight on the feet, like men. Like, what?
Well, I'll say this much: if you are right, Rich, if you are right, what a seismic change that's going to be in the MMA world. He's the money guy. He's lost 3 of his last 4 fights. I'll count the Mayweather fight. Why not?
Well, there's a new.
So he loses again. Wow, you talk about a lot of the shine coming off him now. Woo. And,
but I mean, half of his skill has been his mouth. It's been marketing himself. Unfortunately, we've all been duped about his talent level. And I mean, I hate to compare it to Fedor, but I think Fedor had the same thing happen with him. He was considered the greatest who ever lived in his time, but he was fighting guys who were really not big names in the sport, and they just kept throwing bums in front of him, and he kept winning. And then when you finally put him up against some talent at the end of his career in Bellator, he started having some difficulties. But I mean, he never fought the best of the best in the UFC in his prime. And when he was younger, he fought some crazy matches in Pride. Don't get me wrong. I mean, just ridiculous, ridiculously tough guy, and probably could have really hung with the best in the UFC, but he never really fought those guys and the UFC tried to get him, but they could never sign him on. They could never figure out how to make that deal, because they would have to co-promote with his promoters to make it happen. So anyway, we have the same situation, except Conor talks himself up. In the other situation with Fedor, everybody else was talking him up. He had such a big fan base when I first got into watching mixed martial arts. The first kid I met that was into it was in love with Fedor. He considered him the greatest who ever lived, But, I just always disagreed with that. And the fact that the UFC never signed him to at least expose him as not that good, which would have been like a blow against Russia and a blow for the United States. It would have been like, hey, the Russian is not so great. It would have been a great opportunity for them as the anti-hero to bring him in and just have him get beat. They've done crueler things to some of their big champions, like, feeding Chuck Liddell to the Wolves after 3 losses in a row. They put him up against one of the best. They did that a few times. But anyway, so long of it, short of it is, Conor McGregor has a whiskey company, basically. He can fall back on and do whatever he wants. He's got millions of dollars from fighting, from all his endorsement deals, from his own companies now. So he has nothing to lose and really nothing to prove in his eyes. He just obviously is going to train a little bit harder, not wanting to be embarrassed like he was last time. But unfortunately, I think it's too late for him. He has taken too much time off. He has gotten too used to the easy life. And I don't think he could train hard enough to catch up.
It's obvious he doesn't need the money. The question is does he still want to fight? And that's why this is a must-win. If Poirier comes up short, it's not the end of the world. He'll eventually get another shot at the. He'll get his shot at the belt. But
I also have to side with my Norwich guy, Mike Brown. And there was a post on Facebook. Mike Brown commented on it, but I'm not exactly sure he was being serious. He might have been joking. He said something about Dustin Poirier having one arm 3 inches shorter than the other. He was born with it. So somehow he uses that to his advantage, if it's true. But it's interesting, if it is true. I don't know. I cannot confirm or deny its truthfulness. But a lot of people were commenting about it. Are you serious? And he never answered back, so I don't know. I don't know where that went. But anyway, that is going to be a hell of a fight either way. I do think it's going to go beyond the first round. I don't think there's going to be any quick knockouts. But I'd say the big question is not going to be whether Conor can hang. Obviously if it's going to be less of a wrestling match and more of a stand-up fight, he's going to have the advantage if he plays his cards right. But, Dustin Poirier is working with Mike Brown, who is a great wrestler and a great coach, and he's going to figure out all the angles that Conor could possibly change to compete better. And Dustin, he's got a friggin' chin like you wouldn't believe. So if this thing has to go 5 rounds, I think he can win by decision too. But I like him to win by either knockout or a slick submission at some point when Conor gets gassed out on the ground, if they get to wrestling. But I've always thought Conor was overhyped to some extent. Don't get me wrong, I think the guy has some great natural talent. But I always look back to Nate Diaz when he said at the press conference, "You just got choked out a minute ago by 2 lames." When he first came into the UFC, he had 2 submissions against him, 2 submission losses. So that was my favorite clips ever. Nate Diaz saying what he wants to say, regardless of the consequences. But anyway, Gilbert Burns in the co-main event against Stephen Thompson. That's also a pretty decent matchup. Both of them have 4 losses. But as far as the records in the main event, Dustin is 27-6. Conor is 22-5. And he really got embarrassed in that last fight. So I don't know. What does your crystal ball say before we go on to the next?
I kind of am leaning toward Thompson. But it's a real challenge. But I think that he knows this is pretty much his last chance.
Yeah, I was just thinking that too because he's a more technical fighter.
He's up against the
and
he's up against the age clock.
Like he's had some really
and I remember when Thompson came around, I remember his fight with Johnny Hendrick. I mean, he looked like he was it was a whole different sport. I mean, Hendrick's feet was just in cement, and Thompson really seemed to have it going, and he came up a little short against Woodley, but I think he knows this is his final run at it. And Gilbert, to be fair to Gilbert, he almost had Usman out, but he didn't get the job done. And Stephen feels he's got the style to really give Usman fits. So I'd like to see that. So, and I think he can pull it off in 2 days. He better, because I don't think there's going to be much left for him tomorrow. If he doesn't. And Dana's even said Colby Covington has, as of this moment, is first in line for a rematch with Usman. But if one of these two guys looks spectacular, they may be able to jump the line. So a lot on the line in that co-main event.
Yeah. Well, he's had a tendency to mow through people. Like he's had a big long win streak, just snapped back in February by that loss to Usman Burns. But he's also very short and compact compared to Thompson. And he got knocked out by Dan Hooker before that win streak in the first round, who is kind of that same build. He's a taller guy, lanky, and but he's not as good at karate as Steven is. And, he only seems to get caught with people who have similar reach and who really do a lot of kicks. And I don't think Gilbert can reach him with a kick if he does his back, gets his back as far as he can get back real quick. I don't think Gilbert's going to catch him with any of those. Unless it's to the legs. That might be a good strategy. So, yeah, I like Thompson in that one. But Burns is a gamer. See what happens. He's susceptible to the KO. So if we see Wonder Boy really in Wonder mode, we might see him knock him out with a kicker. Anyway, the one I'm really probably most likely to bet on FanDuel here is Tai Tuivasa and Greg Hardy. I think Tuivasa is going to ruin that boy. Greg Hardy is 7-3, surprisingly. He's got his record right up there, but Tai is 11-3, so it's a 7-11 fight. 7's supposed to be the lucky number. I think 11's going to be here. Tai Tuivasa is a really tough, crafty fighter, and I don't think Greg Hardy's really there yet. He's going to need his inhaler for this one.
Well, again, I think he's got a lot of slack run to him because of his football background. But
yeah,
the guys he's beat,
really
there's a little bit of truth.
I just don't like this fight
Of all the guys he's beat, none of them are in the UFC anymore. None of them. So this is a big test for him.
He's been really propped up. They're slowly ascending him up the talent ladder, but I think this is where he stops. This is where the rung breaks. Anyway, Irene Aldana in a really good female fight against Yana Kunitskaya here in the 10th fight. Aldana's 12-6. Kunitskaya is 14-5. I haven't seen a lot of these two fights from these two, but it's a tough one. It's always a female fight too that's a factor in the winning ticket on FanDuel. So, and this is the only female fight on the card, so I'm gonna have to figure it out. I don't know who's gonna win that one. It's a very good fight on paper. I'll have to analyze that one further and fix that one. And then we got the real pushover fight. Sean O'Malley coming in at 13-1 against a real guy from the bus station. This dude, Chris Mutino. They're bringing him in from another organization rather than finding somebody in their own organization to fight Sean O'Malley. This has been another thing that's been...
Well, he's coming. He's set up to lose.
Yeah.
He's set up to lose, that's for sure.
So O'Malley's just going to be out there showcasing his skills unless Magino pulls up the maximum effort here and comes up with an incredible upset. And on that note, remember the guy that got like the 14-second knockout that helped me win some money a couple weeks ago? There's a meme going around about him. Apparently he almost died of an overdose before he even got into fighting. So he could have been dead. And he turned it around so much, he got a freaking knockout win in his UFC debut. So just kind of like everybody was saying, that's just your idea of, complete redemption is possible, no matter how low you get. So that was a wow for me when I heard that. Anyway, middle of the card here, Carlos Condit coming in at 32-13. Max Griffin 17-8. His opponent. And that should be a nice little war. Condit's got a lot of experience, but he's getting at the tail end of his career. You never know when, one bad performance is going to make him just walk away. Or maybe one good performance make him just say, all right, I'm going to end on a high note.
Yeah, I mean, he's won 2 in a row. I don't think he was ever the same after that Robbie Lawler fight that I thought he won.
Yeah. A lot of wars that guy's been
And he lost the decision. And, so we'll see, though. I mean, he's won 2 in a row.
Yeah. But now a lot of these guys are making a lot of money as coaches, too, now. So, who knows? That transition is a lot easier now. 7th fight of the night, Nico Price 14-4 against Michael Pereira, who's 25-11. We got Ryan Hall 8-1, very crafty, weird style, but he gets it done sometimes. He's fighting Ilya Topuria, who's undefeated at 10-0. So we'll see if his rolls into leg locks will
Now that's going to be interesting because.
Do anything.
Yeah, because Ryan Hall is one note Johnny. Now that's not. Yeah. It's not 1994 now. That stuff's not supposed to work the way he does it. But he does it.
Yeah.
That could be the most intriguing fight of the night because you know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
You know before going in. I mean, he's going to get you on the ground and go for a submission, which worked great in 1994.
Right.
But he's making it work. So we'll see how this goes.
All right. There's another female fight on the card too. Jennifer Maia, 18-7 with 1 draw, fighting Jessica Ai, who's 15-9. Trevin Giles also on this card in the 5th fight of the night. He's 14-2, fighting Dricus Duplessis, who is 15-2. And way down on the 3rd fight of the night, to begin the night. Early going, we have some guys with some big records. Omar Akhmedov, 21-5 with 1 draw, fighting Brad Tavares, who's 18-6. And probably going to butcher this guy's name. 2nd fight of the night, Zalgas Zumagulov, who is 13-5, fighting Jerome Rivera, who's 10-5. And then we got 1st fight of the night, Yao Zong Hu, 3-2, fighting Alan Amedovsky, who's 8-2. I wish Sherdog would list what weight it was in the freaking lineup, because I'd like to be able to tell people what that is, but I always go to Sherdog as my go-to page. Maybe I should go to a UFC website or something. I don't know. Anyway, here's a blast from the past. Sticking to the MMA subject here for a minute before we transition to boxing. Because we have no other MMA events. It's another slow week. We have to wait till next week for Bellator. But we've got a couple stories here. Nate Marquardt is going to be returning to MMA later this summer. Nate the Great, they called him. And he's going to be fighting in Titan Fighting Championships at Titan FC 70. He just announced it at that show this weekend. And he's going to return August 6th when he fights at middleweight. He's 42 years old and hasn't fought since a close split decision loss to Cesar Ferreira in November of 2017. But he has been thinking about a comeback since November 2019 and confirmed he was talking to Bellator at that point. Now 2 years later, he's going to start in this Titan Fighting Championship. Officially, his record is 35-19-2. And his last win was a knockout over Tamden McCrory in October 2016. After that, he lost 3 straight fights, and the UFC let him go. So he's been a professional mixed martial artist since I graduated college in 1999. Legend. And he's part of some of the one of the big DVDs, like the 100 best knockouts in the UFC. He's pretty high up on there for one of his vicious elbows. So when he was fierce, he was almost unbeatable. He was on point, focused. Fought Anderson Silva for the UFC middleweight title, but was knocked out in the first round. And then after leaving the UFC in 2011, he joined Strikeforce and knocked out Tyron Woodley. I think that's the one I'm talking about. He knocked out Tyron Woodley. And he won the welterweight belt there in July 2012. Or maybe it was somebody else. I think it was the UFC's greatest knockouts, and that would have been in the UFC if he was Tyron Woodley in Strikeforce. Well, I guess since they took over Strikeforce, it could have been. Anyway. Got a couple boxing stories here, including a crossover story. Gotta talk about Jake Paul again, unfortunately. He's making news for himself. Looks like the Irish guy over there, Daniel Kinahan, has been served a court summons to appear in court in the United States. So they're coming after him. He's a suspected billion-dollar drug boss, and he's running a lot of boxing careers over there in the UK. I think he's actually loosely involved in Anthony Joshua's management team and a couple other big-name fighters over there. But I believe he's Irish-based, Ireland-based. And the U.S. is accusing him of racketeering and alleges that he controls a company called MTK Global. But anyway, there's a legal dispute between the U.S.-based talent agency Heredia Boxing Management and the management and events firm MTK Global. So the big boxer in the dispute is Joseph Diaz. Complaint alleges that MTK caused Diaz to breach a boxer-manager contract he had signed with this guy Heredia in 2017 and offered him a $100,000 advance. I wonder where that money came from. So I guess this isn't criminal. They probably got no jurisdiction to charge him criminally over here. Anyway. Who knows where that's going to go? Probably nowhere. But anyway, this article says that his assets in the United Arab Emirates could be frozen if he is ordered to pay damages in that case. So they could actually go after him financially. I mean, when you put out articles like that, you kind of give them a heads up, don't you? That's like putting out a big report every week about what places are the most vulnerable to attack for terrorists. Let's show all the plants with no locked gates on the national news when there's terrorism going on everywhere. Yeah. Anyway. On a lighter note here, you guys heard of Fight Camp? Not Fight Camp in general, but the product Fight Camp. Seen it on TV yet?
I have not.
Alright, well basically it looks kind of like in a mixed martial arts bag. It's one of those standalone units. It's got the heavy bag on top and the rubber base. But it's like Peloton, you know. It has a subscription service that connects to your TV, and it's all digital. And it takes you through routines. Pretty sure you can do kickboxing with it too, but it's getting a lot of momentum now. The last time I talked about it on the show, I was saying how much Mike Tyson was raving about it because his kids are getting into boxing because of it. Not because of him, unfortunately, but because of this thing. it's so fun to use, apparently. And there's a lot of Hollywood stars, like even like one of the Kardashians, I think, does a lot of cardio kickboxing stuff to stay in shape. But it's a big trend, for fitness, if not for actual competition. So this is a smart idea, and these people have seemed to have gotten out ahead of it, and there's going to be some big investors in it, because not only Mike Tyson putting his money behind his love for it, but he's also attracted some other people to it, like Floyd Mayweather Jr., George St. Pierre, and current UFC heavyweight champ Francis Ngannou. So this guy that's writing about it here in Forbes actually tested it himself and loved it. It's a little bit expensive, but so is every other subscription service product. I mean, Peloton, they couldn't even go public because they had so much difficulty selling that with how expensive that was. But there's a quote in here: "Fight camp was a cool way to introduce boxing to my kids, and now I can't keep them off it." So Mike Tyson said that. But anyway, bulk of the $90 million investment in this company came from venture capital firms, New Enterprise Associates, and Connect Ventures. So basically it uses smart boxing gloves and a punching bag, along with core and aerobic fitness movements to give users a full body workout and a means to improve their self-defense capability. Sensors in the gloves track your workout, punches, and intensity. Now, I remember talking about those smart gloves years ago. I know that's not new. They came up with that years ago to count your punches, and maybe not the power of your punches. They hadn't gotten that far, but I remember they had one that could count, a set that could count all the punches and digitize them and all that. But anyway, it's a sport and an activity that is gaining a lot of interest. Especially now we have this bare knuckle phenomenon too, because we have a new crazy, ridiculous phenomenon with celebrity fights, and it's going over to bare knuckle now. They're doing YouTuber versus TikTok fights, rapper versus singer, like all kinds of bullshit now over in the bare knuckle circles. Just read about that last week. But anyway, it's wild. Anybody will fight anybody in this day and age. All right.
Well, and Rich, to add on to that, we had a couple years ago we had Damon Tillman on our show, and I've talked to Damon a couple times.
The most famous celebrity boxer of all of them, Randy King. We had him on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and he's doing a lot of that celebrity stuff now. Like he had one last month in Atlantic City, and I think it was Lamar Odom and Aaron Carter.
Yeah.
Which going into that, like, how can this even be remotely even thought of competitive? Lamar Odom was a professional athlete. Aaron Carter's a singer. I mean, when you have true athletes, and you have some of these guys that are doing a lot of these YouTube videos, like Jake and Logan Paul and all that. And I always get them confused, so I apologize if I do that. But these guys may have done some training. They may have done, some boxing. So they may be very athletic. But you take a lot of these guys that are, singers or actors and a lot of that. A lot of them, like Eddie Murphy says the best. You put me in a movie and I'm the star of the movie, I'm going to whoop your ass. But in a real fight, I'm dead, So when you have someone like Lamar Odom going up against Aaron Carter, that's going to be a mismatch. That'd be like putting like Mike Tyson in with an 0-2 amateur. But I know Damon's been working on that, and he's trying to I guess get a gimmick in there, because I went to a couple of his when he was doing actual professional boxing, and he tried to have like a lot of the WWE almost type of flair to the cards. Like, yeah, one fighter, who was a decent fighter, but he was more of a tough man. Came out of the tough man circuit. Sometimes you get decent fighters out of there. Tommy Morrison, for one. Butterbean at a much different level. But for most of these guys, they're barroom brawlers, and once they step up in real class, they get handled. And this guy that he had was undefeated. Like, say he was 15-0, 15 knockouts. And he went in there against a really good seasoned professional, and he got annihilated in like 3-4 rounds. They stopped the fight. And then he's, and this guy, then guys knew how to beat him. So, but everybody has a niche, and maybe that's it. And maybe for a lot of these, like the hardcore fans, like won't take it serious. But hey, if you get casual fans that know these celebrities, hey, what the hell? I mean, I'm not a big fan of it, but I get some publicity is good publicity.
Yeah. All right, Tony, we're going to give you a test of the emergency boxing Rain Man system. What's Butterbean's real name?
Okay.
Yeah. I figured you'd get that quick.
Come on.
Give me a hard one.
That's like perfect knowledge right there.
I just wanted to see how quick you got it.
I'm going to go back even further on you. When I was in high school, about 75 years ago, we were at my friend's house one night. We were 16 years old, maybe, and that's when they were doing they had like a round robin tough man competition on pay-per-view, and we were like, we're going to order it, just because we're stupid. We're going to get some pizzas and we're going to order it. So we did. And we were then trying to give all the fighters nicknames. This guy reminds me of this. Well, I forget 95% of them. But there's one that I remember. And he lost in the finals. And we called him King Kong Bundy. Because he was pretty round and he had a bald head. I remember him because he is Butterbean.
Nice. That's funny.
It's crazy how you remember dumb shit like that.
Yeah. What I remember from the interview, he's a little like
shares
one thing in common
with. Guys, hold on. Breaking news. I got breaking fight news right now. Let me click on it.
Oh boy.
It looks like Fury Wilder is postponed.
I knew it. I knew that was going to happen. Damn it.
Okay, Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder posted the Fury test positive for COVID-19.
Well, he got the COVID.
He got the vid.
Oh no. Well, now he doesn't have to go get the vaccine.
The weekend in October is a new targeted date.
Oh boy.
It was funny.
Let's hope he gets through it. There's there's this Delta variant, and then now I hear there's a Delta Plus variant that's really killing people. So I don't know if we're really out of the woods yet.
My friend Mike stopped over today while I was working. He had to pick up a ticket for a game that we're hitting this weekend, but we're going to meet there. And I joked around with him. I said, because Mike, he works, but he works like with his own landscaping business. His wife has a job. They got the boy, So Mike is perpetually, always like, I got to make sure I got enough money for this. I got to be careful. I can't be spending crazy, especially because I'm a diesel employee. So I always bust his balls like, yo, we're going to Vegas. So when the Fury Wilder fight got announced, I said, yo, we're going to Vegas for this fight. I'll have to look into it, which is code word was, I'm not going. And I said, no, man. I said, come on, let's plan this. Your cousin's treating everybody because his cousin is making six figures, working a really great, financial job. And I'm like, your cousin's paying. I was like, yeah, we'll get suites out there in Caesar's Palace, like the Hangover.
Mm-hmm.
And, we were having a good laugh about it. So when I saw him today, I actually, today, no more than 12 hours ago, I was on the T-Mobile Arena looking at tickets. And there's tickets starting at $200. I can manage that. I couldn't find a ticket for under $500.
Ouch.
And these weren't retail. These were, and I'm like, I'm looking like up in the higher sections, whatever. I'm like, what the hell? So when he came over to me, I said, listen, we're not going to Vegas. We're having a fight at the house. We're getting pizzas and we're getting beer. And now I'm going to have to break their little hearts and tell them, we're not getting pizzas, we're not getting beer, we're not getting a fight.
Right. Well, it is what it is nowadays. And the UK is one of the countries that's really fighting this variant. It started in South Africa,
I know,
from what I remember reading about it. And now it's really bad in the UK.
Well, one variant started in South Africa and one started in India.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know India was really bad, and they were just trying to find oxygen for everybody. But I saw an interesting thing today on the news about zoo animals in the United States. They were asking somebody about all the zoo animals that they're getting vaccinated right now. And I don't know if it's the same vaccine they're giving to humans, but talk about animal testing. But the guy said the only animals that he had even heard died of COVID were minks. Like, there was a bunch of big cats that got it. They were fine. They got through it fine. They had a little bit of a cough, but that makes me go, well, why didn't they freaking try to get the immune cells from those things and try to inject them into the humans or figure it out from that? I mean, they obviously have a better natural immune system somehow than we do if they can beat it so easily and there's not as many deaths. I mean, study all those damn animals.
Well, I'm gonna say
a more natural way to beat it.
And I'm gonna put Tom's psychic ability to the test here, because I need somebody to answer this question that can really get deep into the psychology of this answer. So, because years ago, I used to work at a company that did medical market research, medical education, and worked with the pharmaceutical industry. So we would always be Googling things and what's new advances coming out, because that way we were looking for our business development. So when this started happening a year ago, with this COVID and working on the vaccine, I would almost be looking at different pharma articles and journals every day, just because that was interesting to me. So I'm looking at, hey, what's this going on here? Hey, what's the advances coming on here? And I still do that. Now they talk more about the number of people in different countries that have been vaccinated and the percentage. Now, in the United States, we are just about 50% of the population is fully vaxxed. We can't get 100% right now because nothing's approved for children under 12.
Yeah.
So, you only can have 12 and above, and you're at 50% of the population, which is good. We're getting there. Now, I looked at some other countries. I looked at, Italy, because, that's my ancestors and all that, and India, because they have a high population. The population of Gibraltar is 105% fully vaccinated. Now, I don't get that. I mean, do you have more people fully vaccinated than you actually have? I don't know.
Tourists have been in town. They count them.
I know that's... I mean, Tom, like, you're a statistical guy. I mean, how would you figure that out? You have,
I would hire Dominion to count the vaccinations. Okay, and then where we got it, and don't you dare complain, or you're a filthy racist xenophobe. Well, you'll be sued. There you go, buddy.
I like that. And here's another thing. People talk about reporting, and in a way, we are all journalists. We're radio journalists. We report, what we receive as facts regarding a fight. Now, fight happens last week. Fighter A knocked Fighter B out in the first round. Easy reporting is Fighter A knocked Fighter B out in the first round. Mike Tyson knocked out Michael Spinks in 91 seconds. The fight wasn't competitive. But a person that can also slant that report, a biased reporter, can sit there and say, oh, Tyson jumped on him early and he might have thrown some elbows in there and Spinks never recovered and Tyson fought a very dirty fight, which he didn't. But, you could slant it enough, especially to a person that did not see the fight. And they could say, oh, yeah, Tyson won, but there was some controversy. Or a person that's not knowledgeable. They say, well, it looked to me like Tyson destroyed him, but, this guy's telling me that Tyson really didn't do it, ethically and honorably. So a reporter can slant anything any way he wants it. Trust me, I read the hometown Philadelphia paper, and it is way slanted. Now, I don't trust, what any type of journalist says, especially ones from other countries. Now, there's a certain country that I will not mention by name, but they are thought to be the origin of COVID. About last year, about this time, I was looking at all the different countries and how many cases and how many deaths, and this country in question had 80,000 positive cases and 4,600 deaths. Now, the United States has now 30-some million positive cases and 600,000 reported deaths. 600,000. We're creeping up there. This other country, in the same time frame, is still at 80,000 cases and 4,600 deaths. So when someone put out a report today that there's been a reported 4 million deaths worldwide, I said, well, that number can exponentially skyrocket if this other country was honest about their reporting.
What other country was it?
Yep.
Was Gibraltar?
Yeah. It was not Gibraltar.
No.
It was the origin of this virus. So the place that started it all hasn't had a single case or a single death in 12 months.
China? Oh, fuck.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it. I don't believe they're right, but I believe they said it. I definitely believe that. Somehow they got rid of it real quick. If they did, I'd be even more suspicious if that was true, because I'd be like, well, how did you get control of it so fast if you didn't invent it?
Yeah, right. Well, the other thing that I notice, and I look at numbers all the time, we are not going to be number one very long in number of deaths, which I guess is a good thing, because Brazil, who's about 100 million people less than our population, is only about 80,000 deaths behind where we are, and they are skyrocketing.
Oh boy.
And India only has 5% of their population vaccinated, and they are about 150,000 deaths behind us. So you give those two countries, they're going to be 1 and 2, India and Brazil.
It's crazy, too, because I'm sure you know, India is one of the countries where most of the world's pharmaceuticals are made. Like the pills and shit. That's where they're manufactured. India. Anyway.
Yeah, go back.
Conor McGregor's in the news again, not because of his fight this weekend, but because he is suing Manny Pacquiao, or his management team is. Adi Attar from Paradigm Management has sued Pacquiao for violating a contract after agreeing to fight Errol Spence Jr. in Las Vegas in August. Attar said that Pacquiao was paid a $3.3 million advance to face Mikey Garcia and is determined to recoup the aforementioned sum. So I guess he represents both of them. There must have been a two-fight deal, I guess, according to this. That's what Paradigm is stressing. So in addition to the millions of dollars in straightforward economic loss that Paradigm stands to suffer, the damage to its reputation resulting from Pacquiao's breaches is incalculable, according to Paradigm attorney Judd Burstein. So they pretty much wanted to build their brand off this fight, and doesn't look like it's going to happen. And we kind of all knew that as soon as Conor McGregor lost that fight to Poirier. All his momentum was gone, so if I was Manny, I wouldn't want to sign that fight. There's no upside. Nobody thinks it's going to be competitive at that point. Conor's got to show something. Anyway, speaking of show something, thank God this is an exhibition. Riddick Bowe announces a deal for a celebrity boxing exhibition. He's going to turn 54 next month, and he has boxed professionally just 3 times since 1996. And we know what happened to him after we interviewed him. He had his legs kicked out from under him. So he's gonna, I don't know who he's gonna fight, but he signed a deal with the promotion and called out a series of potential opponents. Who's gonna like this list? I'm not on it, thankfully. Evander, Mike Tyson, Shaq, and Joe Mama. Joe Mama. I don't know. Is that a rapper? Is that a real guy? Joe Mama. I don't know. Tyson and Bowe never faced each other as professionals, but Tyson did take part in a lucrative exhibition against Roy Jones Jr. last November. We talked last week about where that stands, so well, that's a problem for Tyson fighting him. Anyway. Anyway, I think that's a joke to Joe Mama. As it says, Joe Mama, this has got to be a joke, this bad left hook article. Joe Mama would seem to be the least likely opponent. There's an obvious financial motivation to make the fight, given that Joe Mama is so poor. The Ducks throw bread at her. However, health and conditioning are a deal breaker. As sources tell Bad Left Hook that Joe Mama is currently so fat that she has her own zip code. So I guess he's not talking about a real person. Anyway. Interesting character, that Riddick Bowe. Jake Paul now, before we get into the boxing schedule. A lot of people have been putting out stories about some of the things he said, but now he's actually put some money behind it. And he's given a $5,000 donation to, I believe, a UFC fighter, a female UFC fighter. Newcomer Sarah Alpar. She set up a GoFundMe page to help her financially on her mixed martial arts journey. She set the goal of $30,000 to enable her to train full-time and hopefully fulfill her dream of becoming a UFC champion. So Jake Paul got wind of this, and he immediately donated $5,000 and tweeted about it to his 4 million followers. And now she has already surpassed her target. So now that we have some other competition in the marketplace, we've got at least one company I know of, PFL, who came out and announced that they were going to pay yearly salaries to these guys, in addition to the chance for them to win $1 million in the tournament style competition. But so I guess they're just basically paying these guys to train too. But the UFC, not only do they not really pay the guys to train, they pay them per fight, but they also don't really pay any major expenses other than maybe a hotel room for most of their fighters. Like no travel expenses, no eating expenses, no living wage, basically, no coach's stipend, no travel expenses. It's huge because most of the fights are in Nevada, and if you don't live in Nevada, you got to take a plane, and it ain't expensive to fly your whole team in there. But and then on top of that, they don't let them have their own sponsors, so it makes it hard to independently raise money. I mean, you can have your own sponsors, you just can't show them during fight week. So what's the point? Really. So basically, Paul came out and added some commentary to it too. He said, Imagine a rookie in the NBA had to start a GoFundMe to play. And he said, hey, let her know she has my support and contribution. It's my honor and privilege to help fellow fighters in any way I can. And of course, it's been getting comparisons drawn to Conor McGregor and the fact that he has not used his platform of fame and high energy to bash the organization for not paying its fighters well enough. You know, he's like one of those fat and happy guys who will never strike out against the organization again, it seems like. I mean, I know he's had some contract negotiations go sour, but I don't think he's ever really given any insightful commentary on all fighters in general getting screwed out of things because of the UFC's abusive contracts. When he has a very good platform to do that, and he could. He's very independently wealthy, and he could give a shit less about his UFC contract, except for the fact that they own the lifetime rights probably to, you know, any video game that might feature him. But the UFC just signed a huge deal with Crypto.com. I just read about this the other day. $175 million deal over 10 years. And it's going to include some of the fight kits and some of the walkout gear where they're going to have their logo on it. So that's new. I mean, there's already a Venom deal to have Venom be the creator of the kits and, you know, have their logos on it. So now you're going to have two people, two different companies involved in tagging the clothing. So they're not letting the UFC fighters get additional sponsors, but they're getting additional sponsors to put on there, you know. So it's just amazing they're able to get away with it. And the unfortunate part is the courts take so goddamn long. I mean, we have been talking about this antitrust suit that's supposed to solve these problems for 5 years now. Jeez, maybe it's more, but it's a long time to wait for a case to pan out. But, you know, it's kind of sad for Jake Paul to be the one who's speaking out about fighter pay and you know, not supporting these up-and-comers. And he's not even fighting in MMA. You could say he's barely fighting in boxing. But, yeah, it's sad. I wish a lot more fighters were kind of more like Nate Diaz in the sense of he had no filter. When he needed to say something about his pay or his contract, you know, he said it. He was not afraid to call Dana White out for his bullshit. And, you know, Conor McGregor wants to be like Dana White. So, it's a little different, that relationship now. Anyway. Moving on. We had some interesting boxing matches last week. I only got to see one big one, but I was very impressed. Chris Colbert versus Tugstocked Niam Bayar. You know, Niam Bayar really didn't, you know, engage too much. The best shots he threw were body shots, and you know, he would combo to the head every now and then. Never really put Chris Colbert in trouble, but it was a good opportunity for Chris to really figure out what his best style is. Because, I mean, hands down, he has one of the best jabs I've seen since Chad Dawson. I mean, this kid can shoot that jab from anywhere in the ring almost. And connect so fast. I mean, the speed of it. He might need to work a little bit on sitting down on his punches. I did notice that. He wasn't landing anything with any severe power. But he was, you know, when he was throwing the right combinations, he was making stuff work. And one thing I really liked was that when his trainers and coaches told him, hey, listen, you need to go defensive, he was able to drop the whole, you know, imitation shoulder roll routine, one hand down all the way, one hand up, and he went to the both hands up approach. And had a very sound defense when he did that. So I would really like to see him mix that more in the future. And really fool guys, you know, bounce in and out of that, you know, open face stance and back to the gloves up when you need to. Don't take unnecessary punishment just because you want to be flashy. But he has some real core basic skills, and I'm going to really like watching this guy grow, because if he gets power, on top of that skill. He'll be something to fear in the ring. But Nayan Bayar is not the guy that's going to bring it out of him. He really didn't seem to be in any desperation. He seemed to be in control of the whole fight. I think they gave Nayan Bayar 1 round. If they were conservative there on the broadcast team. But it was a fun fight to watch. You know, I like the jab. Did you guys get to see it all?
Unfortunately, I did anything this weekend.
Well, I'm sure they'll rebroadcast it on Showtime if you get Showtime. So check that out when you can. Great jab. Just, I mean, I haven't seen anybody in a long time throw one that fast and accurate. And really did know the difference between that starched power jab and then that just flicking quick jab. And, you know, if I was trying to teach somebody the jab, I'd show him that guy. He knows how to use it. And it also gives you that perspective of, you know, a one note Johnny, like you said earlier, Tom. That's what this guy is right now because of his jab. It's so good. Like, he can have weaknesses in all other areas of his game because he has that good of a jab. But he's gonna tune up those little faults, I think, and be pretty mean. Also, last week we had Michael Rivera beating John Fernandez. Let's see, we had Pete Apollinaire beating Jess Ray Wamanal. I don't know, they're putting these on the front page. I never even heard of those guys. This weekend we have actually a lot of fights on Friday, and according to BoxRec here, the only 2 important fights on Saturday are Lyndon Arthur versus Davide Farasi and Zach Parker versus Shirzad Kusanov. Never even heard of those guys. But tomorrow night, the 9th here, we got a very big fight. Sullivan Barrera and Gilberto Barrera. Barrera versus Barrera.
Bet on Barrera.
Hold on, let me get to it. BoxRec always takes so long to load for such little graphics. Alright, I guess we're going to start off with the Jesus fight of the week since it's here. Right in front of me. Hold on. It's almost right here. It's just right there. There it is. Okay. Of course, it's in Mexico. Main event. Fabian Diaz Grano, 7-3. Lightweights. Grano, 7-3, and it looks like he has a no contest mixed in his last 6 fights too. 2 of his 3 losses in his last 6 fights. He's fighting Jesus Miguel Velasco, who is 14-22 with 2 draws, and he lost all 6 of his last 6. So he's starting to look like a professional loser. Hopefully he pulls out a miracle. Okay, over in Poland, we got some Polish fights going on here. And surprisingly, there's not too many mismatches. Main event, Kamil Gardzielek. He's 12-0, fighting Joel Julio, who is 39-6. And then the co-main event, Uriel Gonzalez, 18-7 with 1 draw, fighting Matus Trick, or Trice, T-R-Y-C. He's undefeated, 11-0. Okay, Harris. No, Gilberto Ramirez, not Barrera. And Sullivan Barrera. Light heavyweights here, and it's going to be on the zone. Gilberto Ramirez is 41-0, fighting Sullivan Barrera, 22-3. I know I got to go with the undefeated guy here, with a hell of a lot more experience. great co-main event here too. We got Joseph Diaz, 31-1-1 against Javier Fortuna, who's 36-2-1. That's a great one on paper. And for a title, WBC interim world lightweight title. And then we got a tsunami at light flyweight. Tenkai Tsunami. That's his real name. He's 28-12-1 fighting Sanesa Estrada, who is undefeated at 20-0. That one's for the WBO World Female Light Flyweight title. And we got Hector Tanajara, also undefeated. This is somebody who's always got to go fight here. He's undefeated at 19-0 at lightweight, fighting William Zepeda, who is undefeated at 22-0. I don't know what their knockout rate is. We got another female title fight, Naoko Fujioka, 18-2-1, fighting Sulem Urbina Ochoa for the World Boxing Association World Female Flyweight title. And finally, rounding out the good stuff on the card, we got Azat Hovhannissian, who is 19-3, fighting Jose Santos Gonzalez, who's 23-8-1 at super bantamweight. Friday. This is Friday. That's it for Friday. Alright, what do they not tell us about Saturday on Box Rec? We're going to find out. While we're waiting for that to load, another couple MMA stories real quick. John Dodson recently had to pull out of his UFC, or his next MMA fight. He's now in a lower, feeder promotion now. He lost a few fights in the UFC and he got his contract clipped out, so they released him. And he was about to fight in one of the other promotions out there, and he got in a big car accident with his family. Supposed to be going on vacation. So, shout out to his family and hope everybody's doing all right. Nobody got hurt too bad, but he's definitely hurt bad enough not to be able to fight and dealing with a lot of craziness with everybody recovering. So thoughts and prayers to that guy, of course, and I hope he gets through that. And then the other news in MMA that I forgot to mention is Nevada has now decided to eliminate marijuana from the prohibited substances list, so fighters can get high and go right in the cage. Doesn't even matter. I guess they finally decided it's not a performance-enhancing substance.
I never really understood. It doesn't enhance your performance, not at all. In fact, it kind of deters from your performance because, you get the munchies. You might, unless you're trying to bulk up, 3 or 4 weight classes. I don't know. But you're right. It's not like a steroid. It's not like an amphetamine. It's not something that's going to, speed up your metabolism or build muscle or anything like that, illegally. I never understood, why it was. Obviously when it was illegal, okay, that makes a little bit of sense that it would be, considered, illegal to, a banned substance. But, now that most places are accepting of it, whatever. Here's a great point that somebody made recently. The one Olympic sprinter, the one female.
Oh, yeah. It's generating a lot of interest.
She got disqualified from the Olympics. Yeah, because of marijuana, right? She smoked marijuana. And that's an international ban. But they're allowing men to compete as women. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No. You're not accepting enough, Tony.
So, it's ridiculous.
What the hell?
Yeah, I guess I'm not. Well, you know what? My one comedian friend that I met a few months ago, he does a Tuesday night studio podcast, and he talks about different topics, and he generally gets wound up, like me, it's the Italian in us. And he was talking the other day about people identifying as different things, and he basically said, my wife thinks I'm a child anyway, so I'm going to identify as an 8-year-old and go dominate little leagues. I'm going to sign up for the little league. I'm going to have 8 home runs a game, strike out the entire team. He goes, I can dominate a little league. He goes, I can go on the dodgeball court like Billy Madison and just wipe everybody off the court. And we're laughing about it. But here's where this world is fucked up, and I don't remember the actual name for it. It's like, it sounded almost like ferret or something, but people can identify as animals then, you know? So a girl came into her class on all fours because she identified as a cat. And a kid made fun of her. He got suspended for bullying. So the comedian, he made a great point. He goes, great. He goes, on next week's show, he goes, I'm coming in here on all fours. I'm going to call myself a dog. I'm going to lift my leg and piss all over my co-host.
Yeah, I always wondered, like, how funny that would be if somebody did a skit of, like, people acting like dogs for a day.
Yeah.
Running up and sniffing each other's asses and chasing shit. Chasing every stick that gets thrown, you know. Crazy. Anyway, Boxrec lied to us because there's a lot more fights on Saturday than they told us about. One of them, it's not really that special. It's not for a title or anything, but some pretty decent records here. If I can find it again. Here's one in South Africa. Worth talking about. Lightweights, Lusanda Komanisi, 23-6, fighting Sinethema Bam. What was that for a last name? Bam. 12-1. Actually, reminds me of John Scully's posts. One of his posts recently was talking about fighters who yell stuff out when they punch and how annoying that is in the gym. Yeah, like, I used to like watching Anthony P. there. He used to do it a lot with the bop. Bop!
Oh, yeah.
Yell it out as he was
You know what? No. I know John was, busting on people that make it, but I mean, the grunt and the sound, I mean, some people are taking a little bit, they sound like they're having a full body convulsion. But you got to get at least a little bit of the grunt out there. And as I tell everybody I ever trained, I said for 3 reasons. One, it sounds cool. Like you're in the ring and you're, man, it sounds like you're fucking somebody up. Those punches might be landed, softer than a baby's ass, but they sound hard. And then 2, if a judge can't see your punches land, maybe they can hear them land. With that sound. Sounds like they're harder than they are. Sounds tough. And also, in case somebody steps in and hits you one in the stomach, that helps you, tense your stomach muscles, that you can absorb the punch better.
All right. Well, we got one last card to talk about here for Saturday, and it comes to us from London. Main event is somebody who's always got to go as well. Lyndon Arthur, 18-0, fighting David Ferrasi, who is 15-0. That's a light heavyweight fight for the WBO Intercontinental Light Heavyweight title. And a co-main event pretty good too here. We got a guy with only 2 losses, Sherzad Kusanov, 22-2-1. And if he gets a draw, it'll be 2s are wild. And that's for the WBO International Super Middleweight title. He's fighting undefeated 20-0 Zach Parker. There's some great fighter names on this card too. Here's a good one. Archie Sharp. He's 19-0, fighting Diego Andrade Chavez. He's 13-4-2. I'm guessing the Sharp guy. I'm not talking that one. That was for the vacant WBO Global Super Featherweight title. We got Intercontinental, International, and Global. We got talk about diversity right there. That's good job for these promoters. Mixing that up. Okay, then we got a bantamweight here. Dennis McCann, 9-0, fighting John Chua, who is 20-4. But here's the big one. One of the best names you can have in boxing. Muhammad Ali, 2-0. Fighting another good boxing name, Lee Glover, who is 11-4. It's super featherweight. We got a super featherweight Muhammad Ali in action this weekend. I don't think he's actually
There's
related.
got to be pressure when you have that name.
Well, he's handling it pretty well if he's 2-0. And really, that's it for the rest of the week. We got a bunch of mismatches down there in Miami, Florida, on a card at the Airport Convention Center. But yeah, it's a slow week for boxing as far as big name events. But there's gonna be one of those cards I just talked about on ESPN Plus. Where do I find it again? How am I gonna find it? Oh, here it is. The one I talked about. Oh, maybe I never mentioned this one. This is the one I forgot. Okay, from Kazakhstan, believe it or not, fights are going to be on ESPN Plus. Looks like the biggest one on here is the vacant WBO European super featherweight title against between Sultan Zauerbek, who's 10-0, and Ronnie Clark, who is 21-4-2. Kazakhstan. A guy like Ronnie Clark must really stand out in Kazakhstan because he stands out on this card with all these Kazakhstani names. He is the only American on the entire card. I'm sure that's what they're going to be covering on ESPN. Anyway, that's just a funny one. I don't think they're going to be rooting for him to win. Just an odd feeling there. Anyway, I guess that's it for us, unless you guys got any tidbits we forgot about.
No. I sent you guys those videos, Tom. I hope you enjoy them. And,
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yep. So, let me know what you think, and we'll reconvene next week. And
By the way,
I didn't book my flight to Vegas. What flight to go to?
By the way, Muhammad Ali, his first two opponents were not as good as you might think, being from the UK. His first opponent was Stefan Sashev in February of last year. That guy's record was 5-27 with one draw, and he got DQ'd, his opponent. So that was his first win. His first pro fight was a disqualification win. Then you had Jamie Quinn coming in with a lucky 7 wins to go with 105 losses and 2 draws. And he won that one on points. So this Lee Glover guy is actually a big step up in competition. He actually has a winning record. So that's the first big test in Muhammad Ali's career.
So it sounds like Muhammad is not a big puncher. A guy has 105 losses and he can't stop him.
Maybe he's doing
It's all
it.
that experience,
Yeah.
I lost 105 fights, but it was never down.
Yeah.
You never put me down, Ray.
I wonder if he's never been knocked out. That would be funny. Anyway, I guess that's all for us. We will probably have more fights to talk about next weekend. I think it's a busier weekend for MMA anyway. And I guarantee you there's better fights than what we got this weekend for boxing. So,
All right, guys. Enjoy the fights.
until then, let's hope I can come
All
back
right, guys.
next week as 1,000-dare for my FanDuel picks. I'm due. Adios.
All right. See you guys.